Warning! This podcast contains... Oh, I was muted. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the As Seen on TV podcast for Saw. The very first movie. The one that started it all.
I was not expecting to laugh, so I broke a little bit.
You broke?
Yeah.
I laughed a little too.
Well, it's getting close to Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's Halloween, it must be Saw. So, this was one of our most requested, I think, movie franchises to cover. And now seemed like the appropriate time to do so with the new movie Jigsaw coming out. So, we have 8 weeks until Jigsaw comes out. So, we have 7 movies to cover. It's kind of perfect. We have just enough time. So, I'm a huge Saw fan. B has, or Kim, whatever you want to call her, has never seen the Saw franchise before, ever. And Nikki can take it or leave it. So, we have a good mix of opinions here. So, that being said, watching this for the first time, what did you think, Kim?
Well, I have seen bits and pieces of this first one. I haven't seen any of the other ones. So there was things that I did know for this one, and I know you pointed it out, and I was surprised because you're right. As much as I'm into like horror, serial killers, and stuff, I hadn't touched this series at all. I don't know why.
I know why. Does it have to do with the sound of breaking bones?
Or tendons stretching and ripping and muscles cracking.
That's the stuff like the cringe factor. So
yeah.
I was fine this entire movie, like, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, that's cool. So he starts sawing his foot off.
Yeah. So honestly, for someone who's really kind of skeeved out from that kind of particular gore, you had one scene in the entire movie that was kind of unbearable for you, right?
That was the only time I cringed. Yeah, every other time I was fine.
During the original premiere for the movie, in a theater in Los Angeles, we still haven't found out which scene it was, but one can only guess. Somebody puked in the theater.
Probably that one.
So it's a good chance that it was probably that scene, because that did make a lot of people uneasy.
I want to say the toilet scene.
You know what? I will agree that I did get a little gaggy.
Yeah, I want to say that was
gross.
Probably the scene that made the person puke, because nobody likes dealing with other people's bodily fluids and parts and things like that.
No solids though.
That's right. There was solids.
There were no solids.
I think that's what deterred me, like starting to gag, was that I had to laugh. I got those.
Side note, that actually, in fact, was melted down Snickers. That's what was in the toilet bar.
I'm not surprised. I think that's something they use quite a bit in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Why?
So
that makes me not want to eat Snickers even.
It wasn't even fully melted Snickers. It was partially melted Snickers. Think of
the way Snickers has got it's got caramel in it, it's got nuts in it, it's
got the texture that they're looking for,
which is gross and it really does make you think nothing of Snickers.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what did you guys think of the actual story to the movie? Like, yes, there was a lot of gore. Yes, there was, a lot of suspenseful moments, a little bit of mystery. But what did you guys think of the whole story of this guy that is a cancer patient? He's on the verge of dying, and he's
treated like crap. Yeah.
Well, it's not that he's treated like crap, because we don't really get much of the way he was treated, anything like that. But he wants people to appreciate their lives. And he puts them in situations where they have to choose to do something involving the way they abuse their life or neglect their life or overlook the true value of their life. And kind of have to like lose a part of themselves to survive and to want to live. The best example is Dr. Gordon. He is a surgeon, and how is he meant to escape? He saw his leg off. They said, you know, he's given the news every day that you know, people may die. You know, he has to give that news to people. But what he's done in his life is not abused his career, you know, but he's cheated on his wife or was going to, you know, and stuff like that. So it's stuff that's like twisted and weaved in there, and he's trying to make these people appreciate their lives and understand the true value of it.
I think what's wrong in his situation, because obviously he hadn't cheated before. It was obvious that it was weird. Like, he was awkward at it. So it's like, okay, so I planned this, but I didn't know what I was doing. That he's like, something's missing, obviously, or he thinks something's missing. He's so focused on his job that he's not focusing on literally what he has at all. So that's the whole point of trying to get him and I like the fact that literally everyone's a puzzle piece. So it really fits that whole jigsaw like thing.
And they literally have a puzzle piece cut out of them too. Like, all the corpses upon the police finding them, because we had Detective Tapp, we had was it Detective Singh, and unnamed the female was Detective Carey. But we had the three of them, and they point out at all the crime scenes there's a jigsaw piece missing out of the victim's body. So it's kind of like his calling card, you know, at the same time. That's why they call him the Jigsaw Killer. Yeah. You know?
Even the fact that he didn't actually kill anybody.
Right.
See, the whole, like, you know, you're seeing it from the victims and the killer's perspective in this particular movie. I kind of feel like they should have did an offshoot where they were trying to solve the mystery from the other side. Like, I would like to see Detective Carey's point of view. Not so much Tapp, because Tapp went not so. But I would like to see it from Detective Carey's position. Like, what they have to do in the background. Could you imagine the shit that they'd have to go through and like, people they are like, you see them interrogating Dr. Gordon and everything. But, like, and then the interview with the inverted bear trap girl. I can't remember her name, but, you know, Amanda. Yes, like, I feel like I could definitely watch. I could sit down and watch that aspect of this story. Mm-hmm. To just see the other side, kind of thing.
Well, I don't want to get too much into what happens in other movies because B has not seen any of it, and we will get there. But we do get more from Detective Carey in the future.
Okay.
So, a lot of these characters we will see again. A good number of them. Even characters that may not be alive. We get background on a lot of characters. And that is what I love so much about... Yeah, that's so much what I love about this franchise, is it's all interweaved, and they don't point it out for you. And it's not like, here's this person, and do you remember when they did this? No, they don't do that. It's just like, here's a character, maybe in a one-off scene, and you're like, oh, wait, that's the guy from... Oh, okay, so it starts making sense now, because it is a puzzle that you're putting together in your head, and it's not thrown in your face like everything. Mm-hmm. That's what I really love about this. The other thing that I really love about this series is movies these days don't hold up very well. And with the exception of The Cell Phone, for a movie that was shot in 2003 and I think was released in 2004, the premiere was January of 2004, and then they released it on October 1st in the United Kingdom. They released it October 29th in the United States of 2004. So for a movie that was made 13 years ago, with the exception of the cell phone, did it hold up well?
Yeah, it doesn't really, like, you don't really get that, oh, it was set in this time because of all the technology around, whereas now they really, like, they focus on, like, the cell phones and, like, oh, look what we can do, look at what this can do. Like, there's even thrillers that are made on, like, cell phone viruses that become airborne, and it's like, what? Like, you don't get that kind of stuff in this movie at all, like, because there is very little technology involved because of the way that Jigsaw has set up his traps and the way that how the viewer gets to perceive what's going on, because you don't, like, in this situation they don't get that liberty of having the cell phone.
Right.
They're stuck in a gross ass bathroom. Like, look at that shit. Why are you there? Like, seriously.
If I ever had, like, a nice big house that I could do stuff with, I would make the guest bathroom look like this. just be, oh yeah, the guest bathroom, it's down there. They go in the bathroom, they're like, what the fuck?
And then the cops end up coming to your house because...
It's fine.
No, it's not fine.
Yeah. I'm not gonna have people tied up in it.
It looks like people were tied up in it. That's the point.
But yeah. But also, big thing with this is the film was shot and edited in 18 days. And I don't think people realize in the movie industry what that actually means. A typical movie does 2, 3... I'll say 3. It's usually 3. 3 to 4 months of prep for the movie in terms of getting the sets together and lining certain shots up the way things are going to be done and getting that much set before the actors and stuff get involved. There was 5 days of that. 5 days. Right? And then we had the entire movie, all the events in the bathroom were shot together. They were shot chronologically, so there was no stuff. They only had time and a budget to shoot 1 to 2 takes of every scene in the movie. Right? They didn't have time to do 30 takes of this one scene like what most movies do, and then they sit there and edit and they take the best. They did some in... They're basically filming their rehearsal, is what it comes down to. And that is just really huge for me. Like, the fact that that budget... Their budget was $1.2 million. And then the movie went on to make, $44 million or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, $1.2 million isn't a huge budget for a movie at all. At all. I mean...
Nowadays, they're like...
I mean, you know what? A person wins $1 million in the lottery, and they can barely live off that for like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, $1 million doesn't go very far anymore. And it didn't go very far then either, so...
Yep.
There are a few things I picked apart later.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Some of the acting is questionable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after the doctor cuts his foot off, that got a little like over the top, I think. But all things aside, and knowing what they had to work with, it kind of really makes it a very special film in that regard, because you don't ever film a movie from start to finish in 18 days. Which one of the and I know you're familiar with the director James Wan, because he does the Insidious series.
Right.
This was his first movie.
I love the Insidious series.
This was his very first movie. 2002, they were in Australia trying to find the budget to do this movie. They couldn't get it. They shopped their script around. They sent it over to LA, and they took a chance. They did not even have the money to take the plane ride to come down. They had to take a loan out to do that.
Oh, wow.
And they joked about it the whole time, saying they're flying all the way down for a really expensive handshake. You know, like that's essentially what it is, because they already read the script. They knew what they were getting with it, but you know, they didn't know. So they took the time while they were there, and they went shopping around. The first people to pick it up was Lionsgate. They're like, yeah, we want it, and they went and they shopped around to all these other networks. And the thing with them is they wanted to direct and act. That was something that they really wanted to do, and Lionsgate was the only one that was like, let's do it. And so the writer, Lee Winnell, played Adam in this movie. He's Australian. He had a pretty good American accent, you know?
His Australian accent did leak through a few times. You could, with certain words and like certain like, it's the same way that like I draw out my R's and in certain things, like he had it here and there. And I mean, it's easy for other people to pick it out if you're really listening.
Yeah.
Like, he did very well.
And, like, this film, I think, is a great lesson to people getting into the film industry and stuff like that, because there was a lot in post when they were editing the film, and they realized there were a lot of scenes and stuff they didn't have, like, proper transitions and different things to do to get the movie to go coherently. So they took the idea of adding still photographs in, and the fact that Adam is a photographer, and they mesh those together, like the crime scene photos and the photos of people that are in the traps out and doing various things and stuff like that, and they threw that all together last minute. That was all in post. That was not planned to be in there. Was a great way to handle some of these missing scenes and dead parts of the film. And it kind of defined the genre and the franchise, rather, moving forward, you know? So all these little like shortcuts that they had to take because of the fact that they were under budget, or they were over budget, rather. It's incredible to just think of some of the ways that they got around some of the stuff that they did. So... But, yeah, okay, so we had Adam. Right? Adam was a voyeur. He spent his life making money by taking photographs of other people and cashing in on it. That's how he made a living. He wasn't living his own life. He was living everyone else's. He was living through everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why he was chosen. Jigsaw recruited him to take photos for him, for various people, and it's not just Dr. Gordon, which we see in this film, but we saw photographs of all kinds of stuff in that envelope that he had. It wasn't just, you know, Dr. Gordon. And some of that may come into play later on in the series. And then we had Dr. Gordon, Dr. Lawrence Gordon, who we mentioned previously. He's a surgeon, cheating on his wife. Didn't actually go through with it. He's got his daughter and his wife, Allison and Diana. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a weird situation at home. You know, he clearly loves his daughter very much.
Yep. That was obvious. He clearly cared for his daughter. He went out of his way for his daughter. I mean, there was the point in the movie where he's working on his computer and she has a nightmare. I'm putting that in quotation marks because it leads on into the rest of the story. And then his wife comes to him and says, you know, she had a nightmare. Can you come tuck her back in? And he's like, yes, I just need a couple minutes. I need to finish this paragraph. And she's like, gah! And then decides to walk away. He's like, no, I'm done. He's like, I need to finish a couple sentences and I'll be right there. But she made a huge huff about it. which I can say that I've done a very similar thing. I have kind of like huffed when it wasn't like immediate, but it was leisure stuff versus work stuff. So I can definitely see the difference. But then he immediately he went to his daughter. He little piggies with the toes, that little nursery rhyme. He did that with her,
And
and he
pigs are a
talked.
huge
It's
staple of this
symbolism.
franchise. So
Yeah. So like he did do that, that retucking in kind of, thing. And he's like, don't worry about it. It's just a dream. You'll get it just that whole spiel to get the kid back to sleep. And then he gets a page, and then he's like, well, I gotta go. And his wife's like, oh my God, you care more about work than us. And so like, she's definitely resenting him at this point because of work. He's a surgeon. He is on call pretty much 24 hours a day. So there is that tension, but that's to be expected when you are married to someone with that degree of a job. He's very important in the medical community. His bedside manner, not so good, but I feel like he's a good surgeon.
yeah.
But that's pretty much him in a nutshell. He's a good doctor, but he has poor bedside manner. He is kind of, I want to say, like, neutral to his wife right now. Like,
Yeah.
he wants to show affection, but he doesn't know how. But he loves his daughter.
Yeah.
So
He seems like he
that's
has a lot of problem with just emotions.
yes, he does seem very, very held up. Like there is a brick wall.
I remember because we all watched this movie together, and I remember at one scene when he started screaming at Adam when Kim goes, "Now you decide to show emotion?" Like, you know, it was
There's
really
a lot of
funny.
times I peeped at him, all like, "Oh, you're stupid."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I talk to movies. That's what I do.
I do that too. It's whatever. It's a way of us trying to figure out what the hell is actually happening.
right.
The whole
So,
cop scene.
They wake up in this bathroom, chained to the opposite ends of the room. They only have access to so much. Like they're literally shackled by their ankles to pipes. In this bathroom, it's a pretty long bathroom. It's like an industrial kind of bathroom. I think it said something about a sewage station when they were going down a ladder or something like that.
Yeah.
So we know it's underground. So it seemed like this is like a worker kind of bathroom, that was set up for people that were working in the sewers and things like that. That's my assumption. And they have limited access to what they can and cannot reach. There's a dead guy in the middle of the floor, and they don't know why they're there, and they kind of are left to figure it out. They were drugged with something, so their memory is very foggy, fuzzy, whatever you want to.
Yeah.
And
Foggy or fuzzy.
fuzzy.
Fuzzy. I mean, that both works. Both of them. Yep, they both work.
And as the movie goes on, they start remembering, the last little bits before they were there. Like Adam remembers somebody coming into his house when he was developing pictures, and he remembers the lights going out and the power going out, and he's sitting through the house and he's flashing his camera to try to like walk around, and he gets abducted by, a person in a pig
Like, you're
mask.
stupid.
And then we find out that Adam was actually taking pictures of Gordon, like Dr. Gordon. He's
Yep.
That's what Adam was doing during this time. So Adam knew about Gordon. Gordon didn't know about Adam. And so that's how they're connected. And then what Adam doesn't know anything about the Jigsaw killer, but Dr. Gordon did. He was caught up. He was actually framed for murder a couple months prior. Right, and this is when we start getting, our background of it, and this is when we're introduced to Detective Tapp and Detective Singh, very briefly, Detective Carey. And the first introduction to that is Paul. And Paul is middle-aged man,
Yep.
and he cut himself. a few times. So
attempting suicide, yeah.
yeah. So well, not all people who cut themselves are attempting suicide.
He was though. He was. That was the reason why Jigsaw ultimately picked him, is because he attempted suicide, but he never went through with it. It got to that point, like, I don't want to say that it happens often, but like it is kind of a touchy subject. But like, when people do, there are some points where certain people, when they do decide to, try, they don't go through with it, and like it gets to a certain point where they either stop, and it's like that point where they should have stopped and they save themselves, or they reach out for help. And Paul was, I think he was, working his way to actually getting to the point where it was going to happen. And then Jigsaw jumped in and was like, okay, this is where you choose.
Right.
Well, he also asked him if he was doing it for attention, because he didn't finish it.
Right. So he gave him the choice, though, and that's the whole motif of Jigsaw. He trapped him in a cell that was covered in razor wire, right?
Yep.
He had all these razor wire. He had a timer in which he had to escape from the razor wire maze in order to free himself, or he was locked in the door, and he'd be trapped forever and die.
Yep.
So in Jigsaw's little tape that he left Paul to listen to, it said, if you want to die, all you have to do is stay where you are. But the irony is, if you want to live, you're going to have to cut yourself.
Yep.
You have to navigate the razor wire. So it's the complete opposite of why he was cutting himself in the first place.
Exactly.
So that's what makes it so interesting, because it flips it right on its head.
Yeah, he had to do what he was doing to survive instead of killing himself.
Yeah.
It is very interesting how Jigsaw went through and was like, he analyzed the situation and said, okay, I'm going to make their decisions their torture. And if they want to survive, they have to overcome their fears or their indulges, like what they indulge themselves on to possibly get through the rest of their day and things like that, which makes their life worse. But what they choose to do, but he made that choice their choice to live. So they had to go through this torture and completely become a new person at the end of it to survive if they made it. I mean, there's only one instance where somebody survived this.
So far, yeah.
That we know.
So far, like in this movie, there's only one.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know about Gordon or anything.
Yeah.
Just one person so far.
Which is something else that I sat back and thought about. Because technically, even though he failed, he still did what he wanted him to do, which was cut off his foot and try to, the whole point in the end is to appreciate your life as it is. So I would think that if he went on from here, even though he has lack of a foot, to appreciate, what he has, I think at this point he would. So the question is
Gordon had to overcome so much. It felt like he had to overcome so much more than a lot of the other people that Jigsaw had because he not only had the choice about Adam, he had the choice about his foot, and then he had to do it in a certain amount of time because of his wife and daughter's lives being threatened. So he had a lot more to just push him, even though Kim said he failed, but he still managed to.
Well, let's explain what his game was in the first place. Dr. Gordon's aim in this game was to kill Adam, right? Mm-hmm. That was his test. He had to take a life of someone in order for his wife and daughter to survive. That's what his game was. It was not about him living. It was not about him escaping. None of that was ever even mentioned.
No.
That was for his wife and daughter. And then Adam we found out at the end of the movie that Adam's key was in the bathtub with him when he woke up. But
it went down the
But
drain.
when he freaked out because he was underwater and, came up and he pulled the drain out, it sucked the key down the drain. So this is probably the only movie where people have a lot of questions about Jigsaw and his motives and stuff like that. Because they're like, he's not a killer, but he's putting certain people in these situations that they can't possibly win. Like Adam,
Yeah, really. Adam was gonna die no matter what.
No, I mean, if the key wouldn't have went down the drain, he would have been fine. He could
Right.
have got out.
He could have gotten out, and then if he did, how does Gordon win his game? So it's putting him in a really weird position. I do have an answer for it, but it's not something I can get into until a couple more movies when certain other information is revealed, because I don't want to spoil stuff ahead of the time. So we will go back and revisit this particular test at that time.
Okay.
But yeah.
I kind of like that Adam did change, like his personality changed as the movie went on. Because at first he was like, I don't give a shit, fuck you.
Yeah, he was very mistrusting, and he was very arrogant, and he's snarky. And then as the movie went on, it was only 6 hours. Like the time frame of the movie was like 6 hours. So, within that 6 hours, he became like more trusting. He became a little bit more sympathetic and like empathetic, and at the same time, like he was just like, it became like, I have to survive, so I have to work with this man I barely even know across the way. Like they had to work together. They were both sitting there like across from each other, trying to figure out and putting the pieces back into the puzzle. Like they were literally figuring this shit out together at the end.
And the beauty of it is there was this whole puzzle set up throughout the room that like Adam had access to information that Gordon needed to be able to solve the puzzle, and all the clues that Adam was helping Dr. Gordon through were essentially going to kill Adam. So Adam's been helping his own death this whole time in the game. Yeah. And it's just like, if I was Adam and I knew that Dr. Gordon's trying to shoot me, especially toward the end of the movie when he actually does shoot Adam, because he's so frustrated with everything and he wants to save his wife and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
If I was Adam, I would have
shoot him
jumped
somewhere
in
it
the
wasn't gonna kill him,
bathtub.
Well, I don't think he meant to shoot him. I think he actually did mean to. He had an intent to kill at that point. Like he wanted to kill Adam so he could win. But because of the way he had just sawed off his foot. He's going through shock. He's crawling on the ground. His arm is waving with the gun. I don't think he meant to shoot him in a place where it would kill him, but it didn't. Like, because he was just.
I don't think so. I think he
is a
shot
surgeon.
him on purpose to where it wouldn't kill him, so it looked like he was dead, but he still wasn't dead. So when they came to like do whatever, he had the chance to get. I think he had it. I think he did it on purpose.
And they could be argued because he is a surgeon. He would know exactly what a fatal wound is and what's not a fatal wound. So that is totally arguable.
When he jumped back up,
but
like,
was he in the
his
right
shoulder.
state of mind to do that? That's another question.
That's
we don't
what
know.
I was saying. Like he's freaking out because he's frustrated. He wants to save his wife. He's in shock from sawing off his foot, and he's crawling. He's losing blood. Like for me, I feel. I mean, he could be having an adrenaline rush at that certain time, and that does kind of override all of the things. But I feel like that kind of wound to inflict on yourself with the time running out and just anxiety and everything just compiling down, I don't feel like he could even see straight at that point. I think he was seeing double and all that jazz because of the situation and the just because he was bleeding out.
Yeah.
There was lots of pain
and
shock.
I love their solution for an actor who still has a foot and is supposed to have sawed his foot off is to put a really loose, wet black sock on his leg. That was their solution to what his foot was supposed to look like sawed off.
I know it was supposed to be his shirt just drenched in blood, but yeah, it did look just like a really big black
pants?
sock. And and his pants and stuff. Like, it was like, because he did wrap his shirt around his ankle, just above his ankle.
Because he was trying to cut the blood circuit off.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know in that particular scene, you don't really get to see much because they're not trying to focus on that, because obviously his foot is not sawed off. They need to just kind of like get your eye somewhere else. Yeah. So it is a big loose piece of cloth.
Yeah, it's just funny that that's your solution, is a big loose black wet sock. But well,
there's a few inconsistencies that I thought were like, I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. I thought just a couple things I thought of just today. Like, I sat back and I really wanted to just think about different things today that I felt were a little weird. At first I thought about the whole shotgun thing. I know we haven't talked about that scene yet.
No.
But
yeah.
Well, let's get through the rest of it first, and then we'll go back and revisit that. So we had Paul, which was the razor wire. Then we had Mark Rodriguez. None of these characters, they've mentioned their last name, but no. you find out a lot more about them later on in other movies. Mark Rodriguez was a very healthy individual, but he kind of used a fake illness to make money and get sick. Like, get money from like health insurance and
he played the systems.
Companies. He was a scam artist and stuff like that. But he was very healthy, and there's photos of him walking around. Now, they never said directly that Adam is the one that took these pictures, but one could assume that, you know, why do I have so many photos of you walking around being healthy? One could assume, that was Adam that did that. So Mark, his test is if he's well enough to move around, he should be well enough to navigate a room. So he is covered in a flammable substance. He's stripped completely naked, head to toe, covered in this flammable substance. And he is left in a supposed to be dark room, but it's pretty well lit for us viewers. But he's in a dark room with a candle. And he's got to go through a combination that is on the wall. It's a bunch of red letters and stuff like that. I don't think every number, because the wall was covered all the way across.
Yeah,
I don't think it's everything. I think there were certain numbers that were marked that were the thing, and he had to go navigate them in order. But on top of that, the floor is covered in glass, shards of glass. So he has to still move fast because he has a slow active poison that's in him.
Yep.
And the cure is in the safe. So he's got to do this in order to survive. Obviously, he slips up, the candle burns, and he goes up in flames. So he doesn't make it through. This is the test in which Dr. Gordon was framed. His pen light was left at the scene of the crime. And this is where they give us our first indication that the Jigsaw Killer books a front row seat to all of his victims. He watches them. So we get that information. They said that there was an eye hole in which he was being watched in this one. They said a very similar thing was found at Paul in his razor wire trap. Then we have Amanda. She's in the reverse bear trap. And she has to cut the key of her quote-unquote dead cellmate out of their stomach in order for her to survive. Now, her roommate wasn't actually dead. He was fitted with a numbing agent and like
he had a narcotic that he was awake.
Yeah.
But his body was
completely paralyzed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was awake and conscious.
Feel it. He didn't feel any of it. But, and this is like, okay, so what was that guy's test? And, how could he win when, I mean, he wins if Amanda doesn't do it, I guess. But, it was really Amanda's test. That's not to say that man wasn't tested previously
prior to, yeah.
and failed. You know, like
That's the question with the whole puzzle piece
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah.
so. So she had that. She gets a trap off within mere seconds before the thing went off. She's the only surviving victim. And I just want to point out that the actress, Shawnee Smith, who did this, she came in. She had 1 day to film everything. She was extremely sick. She was running like 102 fever during the entire filming. She still came in and shot everything.
Wow.
So,
Trooper.
Real trooper right there.
And you know what?
And if she didn't, and they had to recast her, I will tell you right now, the movie would not have been the same, and the franchise wouldn't have been the same.
Knowing that now, because I mean, she did look like she was sick.
She did look sick.
But I mean, she's an addict. She's a drug addict, so it made you think like, you know, oh wow, good makeup. But no, she was legit sick because she had like a really nasty cold or something, and the bags in her eyes were real and stuff. So that, wow, like, good on her.
Yep. You know, and then we get, you know, some background of Dr. Gordon, where he's in the hospital, or he's in the, or we see him at the hospital. Like, he's working, he's doing stuff. This is when we're introduced to an orderly Zepp, just like in this throwaway little scene, you know, very, very small thing. We get the patient, John, cancer patient with an inoperable tumor. At this point, you know, we don't know that the Jigsaw killer is sick. You know, we don't know that. We don't get that detail. So we don't know that the guy they're talking about lying on that bed is actually the Jigsaw killer. We don't know that. So Zepp expresses at that moment, you know, and looking back on that, it's like, oh, it was obvious, but it wasn't at the, you know, back then when Zepp, you know, was like, oh no, he has a name. His name's John. He's a very interesting, you know, individual. Like, looking back at that now, you're like, oh my God. But at the time when that scene came across, it's just like, okay, he's grown attached to, you know, one of his patients. No big deal. So.
And this is where, you know, the really, like I said, his Gordon's bedside manner was terrible. This is where that comes into play. That's where you see this part.
Oh, he brushed him off like hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
He was just like,
yeah.
Who are you?
Yep. So, you know, and then we as the movie goes on, we find out Zepp is the one that has Allison and Diana. Like, he's the one that has her. So we're kind of led to believe this whole time that it's him, that he's the Jigsaw killer. But, you know, as it's revealed at the end of the movie, he's not. He had a poison running through him. He had his own tape. His game was to kidnap Allison and Diana, and if Gordon didn't complete his task, his game was to kill them. That was his part in it. If he succeeded at that, he would get the antidote, he'd be able to survive, walk away. If not, he would die. That was his aim in the game.
I know the reason was cited in the movie of why Zepp was also picked, but for the life of me right now, I cannot remember.
And I'm gonna get to that in a second. When what I do want to, because this is a running theme for Nikki that she's about to choke me for. The actor who played Zepp is a character that they brought into Lost, and he he played Ben Linus in Lost, and he was supposed to be a character that was in for a couple episodes, and they loved him so much that they wrote him a full-time part, and he stayed on the show after that for the full duration of the show. But he's a phenomenal actor. I don't remember now. Honestly, I don't remember what Zepp, why he was chosen.
I didn't remember them saying. I mean, I know.
It was around the time where we get to hear his tape.
I'm
pretty sure, unless I maybe I remember a bit of a piece from another movie or something. I don't know. Maybe Carlos can help us out in chat.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say anything really. We don't get that information.
I, I mean, I think it has to do with his job, but
Passing in a job. He was one of the only people that actually showed that he cared about, the workers. So I'm not exactly sure why he was chosen, to be honest. But
I feel like he was doing some like questionable things with the patients. Like he cared too much. If you get my drift.
What we find out actually, so I'm looking right now. They go back and they kind of explain this. There's a comic book. There was a prequel to the first 3 films of Saw. It's called Saw Rebirth, and they went back and they explained that Zepp is the one that told John Jigsaw that Dr. Gordon was cheating on his wife. So he's basically a rat.
And that's why he was chosen?
Yeah. It wasn't his place to tell.
Yeah, it's not his business, but...
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, it would be different if Zepp would have went to the wife and been like, guess what? But he went to John, who was like an outside... Yeah, I get it. But I mean, at the same time, I'm like, compared to some of the other things that the other people have been targeted for,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We get a lot of the stuff from the police, from the Detective Tapp saying, and we get the whole story of how Detective Tapp basically fell down the rabbit hole. He is obsessed with the murders of Jigsaw, and he's going over the tapes over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and then he finds some information that may lead them directly to him. But he wants to act fast. He doesn't have time to wait for a warrant and all the paperwork and everything to process. He wants to catch the guy now. Like, it's been too long, and he doesn't want to let this continue. By the time they got, legal clearance to be able to do any of this, he could be long gone.
This is true, but, I mean... This particular part of the movie, I think, was poorly thought out. It definitely is it is the weakest part of this movie. Like, I said I would like to see the other side of what was going on during this whole debacle. But this, with Tapp, was incredibly stupid. I don't care. You go through the protocols. You make sure you get that extra clearance. I mean, in this case, you guys wouldn't have missed him. He would have still been there. Because that seemed to be his workplace. Indefinitely.
Maybe.
It just felt like that to me. And I know that they're like, oh my god, we have to act fast. We have to get this killer. But like, in any other situation in real life, if that were to happen, and say they both got to walk away from the situation, they would be disbarred. They'd be done. They'd be like no part. Like, the only reason why Tapp wasn't...
Tapp got canned because of this, right? Because of his actions. Like, this didn't fly. He goes in, and they rush in there.
Other reasons, too.
There was, they found it was an old mannequin factory, which makes sense because we have the puppet, and stuff like that. That kind of all, leads in together. He mentions, that I suffer from the disease eating away at me inside. This is where we kind of get the first hint that he's not well, the Jigsaw killer, and I'm not talking about mentally. I'm talking about he's physically ill.
Yeah, he's a sick man.
And he sets off a trap for a man named, I think, Jeff, if I remember correctly. Yeah, no, I think it was Jeff. And we have Detective Singh is basically working on getting the guy out of the trap. Detective Tapp is trying to, like, arrest him and get him to put on handcuffs. While Detective Singh is busy trying to free this man, Jigsaw comes up with a wrist blade up his sleeve, slashes Tapp's throat, runs off. Right, so Singh goes running after him after he frees Jeff. Doesn't want him to get away. So he goes in and trips a tripwire that shotgun blasts his head off.
There's like 5 shotguns lined up in the hallway.
Okay, look at it. The scene, they make it look like you saw it. I'm like, why didn't you just fucking stop, dumbass? One, they were dumb for the whole thing anyway. I'm like, oh, you're doing with a psycho, like, serial killer? Well, kidnapper, technically, I guess, because didn't actually kill anybody. But I mean, the shit that he's got, like, planned out and figured out, and you're just like, I'm just gonna walk in here, blah, 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 blah.
Exactly, like that.
Did he actually
really
kidnap
stupid.
anybody, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very sick,
He drugs
feeble...
them and drags them to a fucking bathroom.
A very sick, feeble man is able to lift these people up?
Yeah, he looks so feeble.
Okay.
I mean...
Though you're technically, I guess you could have someone else do it because the whole puzzle, like, yeah, we saw everyone does something else for him.
Yeah.
But it started
still.
somewhere.
Yeah, I mean...
Anyway.
He probably, when he first started, he probably could do it. He probably could drag these people off their asses after being drugged. But, like, at this point in the movie, yeah, he's pretty fucking feeble. He's whatever. But, I mean, he is a kidnapper. He's a serial kidnapper.
I mean, technically, yeah, that's... Even though, okay, so even, let's say, a crime organization, and you're the boss, and maybe you didn't freaking do anything, but you're still the boss.
Of course.
You're still going to get
but
charged
I'm just
for all
saying,
these things.
he may have people helping him. We don't know this.
Not yet.
So.
But, I mean, it doesn't matter. He is still the center, the start of it. Just like, okay, this is going to be a horrible comparison, but Charles Manson. He had other people doing it for him. They all turned everybody each other in and got lesser sentences, while Charles Manson is forever in prison.
Yeah.
Forever. Didn't he die? I don't know. But yeah.
I think he's dead now. But it's, yeah, I totally get it. Like, it is the same kind of situation. Charles Manson was the head boss, basically, and everybody else did the dirty work.
He didn't kill anyone. He never killed a single person, but he was the mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
He's still liable for everything that that happened, and that's same goes with Jigsaw here. Like, doesn't matter if he did physically kill them, he's still a murderer.
Yeah. But Allison and Diana, they free themselves, they get away, they live. They escape Tapp, who did survive the throat slashing. And actually, in the Saw video game that they have out, there's a tape that you can find where Jigsaw actually calls an ambulance for Tapp. So, his goal is not to kill people who don't deserve it, you know?
Yeah,
so
I know. Yeah. That makes sense.
He's got morals, and that's what makes him a very complex and interesting character.
So technically, he killed the one cop.
The cop killed himself.
I see it. It's
a fine line.
It's set up in defense, but at the same time, he's doing bad things, and they're chasing him for a reason.
Right.
So,
I mean, he shouldn't have been in there in the first place. He had no legal. He's trespassing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right,
So,
he was.
Well, so is Jigsaw.
Well, you don't know that. He could have owned that factory.
Anyway, but still, there is a few other. So obviously the shotgun thing, I was like, totally could be camera angle, how they set it up, how they recorded it.
Well, yeah, it was the way it was set up. It's in like an alleyway. That was. Like, it used to be an alleyway or something, but it was closed off within the confines of the building. And on one side of the screen, which is the side that Jigsaw was on at the time, you can see above the door frame, and there were shotguns. But from Detective Singh's side, the door frame was in the way. He couldn't see any of the shotguns.
You saw him start to push on the cord and look up.
Yeah,
so
because he heard the
click.
The click, yeah.
So, I mean, I'll give him... that's one I'll let slide. But you got your throat cut.
Yeah,
Tapped it.
Yeah,
yeah.
So, people survive. People can survive this. I'm not gonna say that it isn't. And I don't remember really hearing him talk later, so because his voice box could be fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only. I think. I mean, there was a lot of blood, obviously, because
He was
got
very
sliced.
raspy. It was almost came down to a whisper after his
The
throat was
only,
cut.
the only thing that actually got injured, other than some extra flesh around, was his voice box. Was his trachea. So like that's the only thing that really got damaged when he got his throat. Like it didn't hit. It was just like right here. It didn't get any of the veins or anything. Yes, there was blood because that happens when you get cut.
Well, yeah, but I still don't think there was enough blood for the situation. And he just kind of held it for a little while, and then all of a sudden it stops bleeding.
They ran out of syrup. Their budget,
bleeding.
They ran out of their syrup because they have a low budget. They had to like do something.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's the only reason I think probably did. But I mean,
it's getting too warm for me. I have to take my jigsaw hood off.
A cut like that does not just stop bleeding after you hold it for a little bit.
No.
You can slightly nick yourself and it doesn't stop bleeding.
We didn't see the ambulance come.
No.
But
we did.
We were gonna say it did, and it came fairly quickly. So.
Yeah. But I mean, like, Detective Singh, you see your partner get his throat sliced, and you're like, "Are you okay? Okay, I'm gonna go after this dude here."
Yeah.
That was really was
the other thing.
You should have stayed with your partner. I realized this is a big suspect, but he's injured. He did claim that he was sick.
Tap was kind of pointing, like, to get him. Like, Tap, and we know how obsessed Tap is. Tap, even though he was injured, he didn't want to lose the guy, so Tap was telling Singh to go do it because he couldn't talk.
Yeah, well...
He also followed them down the stairwell with his neck all messed up.
Yeah, I just... Professionalism at its finest. Like, I mean...
Well, the whole thing was stupid. Like, from the very beginning, it was very unprofessional at all. You don't just barge into shit, and you just it was all... No. It was stupid.
Like I said earlier, there's protocols you gotta follow. I don't give a shit how obsessed you are, how incredibly important it is to catch this guy. There are things you have to follow, rules you have to make sure that are,
Gotta play by the rules.
Exactly.
And I want to know why this always happens, not just in movies, but just in general, in life, for reals. You hurt yourself, you fuck something up. Someone always goes, "Are you okay?" Obviously, I'm not okay. No. I'm like, I just had my throat shit. Are you okay?
Obviously, there's blood running down my throat because there's a big gash there. I'm not okay. I can't, obviously.
Are you okay?
So, Ashley says, I saw a video game. How successful has the series been? It's been phenomenally successful.
They're coming out with an 8th one in October.
Yeah, so. But Tap does not meet a very good fate. He goes chasing after Zepp. And leads him to, just outside the bathroom, to where Gordon and Adam are being held, and gets shot in the chest, and seemingly dies. Yeah, he seemingly dies. In terms of the rest of the movies, he is in fact dead. He's the main character in the Saw video game. In fact, when Jigsaw left the bathroom, he found Tap, fixed him up, and put him into a test of his own, because he really wasn't tested. He got his throat slashed and all that stuff, but that wasn't a game. Like, he wasn't part of anything there. So the whole video game revolves around Tap and his game, and he's kind of locked to an insane asylum kind of thing. Like, there's patients running around and stuff like that, and it's kind of crazy, and he doesn't make it out of the game. So that's where that ends. So Tap does not meet a good fate.
He dies either way.
Yeah. So we're meant to believe in the realm of the movies that he died there, which is completely fine, because you don't need to know that he survived. But if you are very interested in the Saw universe, you can get that extra bit of information. He still dies. It doesn't change the events of the movie by any means. But yeah. So with that, Zepp goes in to see if Adam and Gordon have finished their task. This is when Zepp is surprised that Adam isn't actually dead. Gets beaten with the toilet seat cover. And then Gordon crawls out of the now open bathroom looking for help. He said he's going to come back, get somebody to come back for Adam. In the meantime, Adam's searching Zepp's body, for a key to try to get out. That's when he finds the tape and finds out that Zepp was only another pawn in this whole game. He's not really the killer. And this is where the big twist of the movie comes into play. And, you know, it cuts back to, oh, you got to play by the rules. And, like, we're getting this whole montage of different scenes. And the Jigsaw Killer likes to book a front row seat, you know, to all his games and stuff like that. We're meant to believe through the movie that that's through a camera that's been watching them, but that camera's for Zepp to watch, you know, not Jigsaw. And that's where, and I don't care how many times I've seen it, I don't care how many times I know it's coming, every time I see the scene, and I can't just put the one scene on, but it's like coming, you have to watch the whole movie, and when it gets to this point in the scene, the hair on my arms stands up. And I literally get, like, shivers. Like, it's done so incredibly well. The dead guy on the floor through the whole movie that's been laying down in the bathroom stands up.
It is Jigsaw.
Well, it's more than that, because they make it look like he shot himself in the head because of poison. That's the whole running thing, was that this guy had so much poison in his blood that he just decided to kill himself.
Yeah.
So you see, it literally, like, the makeup looks like he shot this whole side of his head. There's blood all over the ground. He's been laying in this whole time. Which this is another complaint I have. Though, I mean, obviously we know that it was but he said that there was poison in the blood. So he's been laying in this poison blood this whole time.
Just because he said it doesn't mean that it is.
Yeah. I mean,
right,
I think
that's
it
the
was
only
just...
thing that...
Yeah. I don't, like... I know during one of the scenes, he's like, there's so much poison in the blood, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we see Gordon dip one of the cigarette, because there was, like, there's a lot of aspects we haven't talked about, but, like, there was a box with, like, indulgent things. Like, there was a couple cigarettes in there for Adam and Gordon to have. Gordon ultimately had the box. Adam's on the other side saying, give me the cigarettes, oh my God, I need a cigarette. And so Gordon, like, sneaks one of the filters in the blood, like, okay, maybe this will kill him, kind of thing. But he ends up, like, this is a funny scene, because they turn off the lights so that Zepp can't see, and they whisper across from each other, which is hilarious. They're whispering because they think the killer is watching and listening through audio and video. So, you know, it's at this point that Gordon's like, I have a plan. I'm going to throw you this cigarette. Zepp, the killer just watched me dip it in the poison blood. You need to pretend you're dying from poison. And he's whispering horribly. You need to act this out. And he's whispering this across to Adam. And like we just said, the killer has been alive in the room the whole time. So he heard every word. So Gordon tosses Adam the cigarette. Adam, you know, takes a couple puffs, and all of a sudden he's like, "Wah!" And starts doing this really
bad.
It was very horrible. And then he just falls on the ground, and he's dead. He's pretending to be dead. And, you know, a few seconds go by, and Gordon's waiting, like, something gonna happen. Then all of a sudden, Adam gets electroshocked. Like, he just starts going, and he wakes up, he's like, what the fuck was that? And Gordon's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, why?
Stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan. And nobody really knows what's going, like, oh, maybe the killer just tested him, like, you know, zapped him to make sure he was dead. No, the killer knew he wasn't dead, and it was like, that's not how the game is played. Zippy zap.
Yeah.
Which makes me figure, like, where did the electric, where did that come from?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we know that it's coming through the pipe.
He had a buzzer. He had an electronic, like almost like a car alarm, you know, kind of like a thing Jigsaw was holding.
A remote button.
Yeah, and it electrocuted. He did that because Adam picked the gun up to try to shoot him.
What on their body was it that was
the chain
electrified?
The chain to the pipe. Another thing. The chains. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I know we had a big, like, argument about them with the saw.
it was funny because we were watching and both me and Kim just started like going off, and Dom had to pause the movie because we were having such a big fit about the chains.
They were taking these like they're hand saws.
Yes.
And
so you could see the Jigsaw killer on the ground, like he's dead the whole time.
Yeah, that's literally where he sits the entire movie.
Yeah.
So, but these hand saws are not sturdy anyway.
No.
They're not meant to cut anything. I mean, you can cut some pretty hardcore like PVC pipe and different things with like wood.
Yeah.
Like little woods, but nothing crazy. They're
not like these really thick steel chains that happen to be attached to them. The thing, though, that me and Kim had a problem with was the locks that were attaching the chains to the shackles. Those locks could be hand sawed or weakened enough so you could break them after being sawed a little bit. So, but they're going at the chains, and we're both, me and Kim, were like, no, you're stupid, stop it. Like, we're just like flipping out. So, I think we spent a good 10-15 minutes just kind of like ranting about this particular part because it was really, really, really
padlocks
stupid.
are not, even though they are a safety precaution. You can use them towards things. They are, I mean, obviously not everyone's walking around with a saw to take your bike, but that's what happens. How do you think, how someone comes and steals your bike or steals whatever you're stuff? So like, it's a padlock, because they come up with a wire cutter or something strong enough to just be like, snap.
But yes, they were steel padlocks, but they're not exactly that sturdy. They're not as sturdy as the chains that were like, I swear, they were like, I want to say like this thick. They
were heavy duty chains.
They were very heavy duty, but the locks were not. But the doctor and Adam sat there, and we can only assume it was for a good 10-15 minute. Like I feel like they were at it for quite a while trying to get through these chains.
Adam broke his, and Gordon's was still intact, but he gave up shortly after Adam because he realized the chains aren't going to be cut like this. There's no way they're getting out of this. So, yeah, like, it was just like, you're stupid. You are stupid. I will give Adam the benefit of the doubt. He's not he's not like college trained. He takes pictures. He probably doesn't know.
No.
You're a damn surgeon, and I know you use a tool just like that to what? Cut bone.
Exactly. That's why I was sitting there like, this is stupid. Yeah, Dom already heard all of this, so he's like, I don't want to hear it again. I'm gone. But I mean, it also like happened again with the toilet scene. We did talk about it a little bit. There was a hint that there was something in the toilet. And so the first thing Adam does is go digging in the Snickers of the basin of the toilet. And I'm like, no, dude, no. You take off the top and look in there first. And if there's nothing in there, then you go digging. But no, he did it the other way around. And he even commented on it. Did. Which, I mean, I don't know. I was just like...
I personally would have gone from the top anyway. If you watch any movie or anything, if stuff's hidden in the top, no one hides it in the bowl.
Yeah, no, but I mean, unless unless you're flushing like drugs away from the police, that's when you hide things in the toilet. But you're flushing it. Then you're getting rid of it.
I think B's favorite line though in this movie was, "I don't care if you covered yourself in peanut butter and had a 15 hooker gangbang."
Yeah, that was funny. I laugh really hard at that.
Yeah, but like, I mean,
probably a little too hard, but
I give them. Like, I give them a little bit of leeway because they are in a very stressful situation. You're not exactly thinking straight.
You're not. No.
But there are some things where common sense does come into play, and they didn't have any of it.
I'm still surprised. Like, these two were fighting. Like, the whole beginning, the two were fighting. Adam didn't want to give up shit. He didn't want to tell him anything. They wanted to fight over objects. He's like, I ain't giving it to you. Why don't you give it to me? Well, that kind of crap. With the key stuff. So when the box came out, when they got the box, I mean, Gordon was already like, wow, how'd you know to turn the lights off? And was all like, blah, blah, blah. So when they got the box, and then we knew Adam had the key, I was waiting for Adam to fight him on that too. I was like,
Me too.
I was waiting. I literally the first thing I said, I'm like, oh, they're gonna fight over the box, and it didn't happen.
No.
Adam just threw him the kick, and I was like, okay. When did you all of a sudden not become combative? But okay.
I mean,
well, it's a little disorienting. You get locked into a room. You don't know how you got there. Some other guy has all the information of, like, somebody who put them in there. You don't know anything. Like, you're not going to be exactly trusting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you have no information, you know? It wasn't until, like, he found the pictures and he started getting his memory back that Adam started realizing why, in fact, he was there. And, you know, then that's when, you know, the character evolved. There's a lot of story evolution in these characters.
There is.
As time goes on. They do learn to work together. And I think when Gordon crawled out of the room, you know, he's like, I'm gonna get help. I'll be back. He meant it, you know.
I know this is a random. I know random, but I just thought about it just now. 'Cause it's something I thought about today. So I think I have another puzzle piece that I'm waiting to see if it becomes a puzzle piece later. So our kidnapper, which is in a red coat and a pig mask. You know, it doesn't look like a pig mask. It looks like an actual pig. It's like they stuck pig on their head, which I think is funny because, you know, that's always usually a representation of a demon.
Yeah,
it's a pig head.
Yep.
So
I will say, in a future movie, you will learn exactly why the pig is chosen.
Okay.
Well, the pig figure or whoever's playing the pig, I think is a female and not a male.
Okay.
I mean, there was the scene with Gordon in the parking lot. They did seem on the taller side, but you're right. The build was a little bit more
very feminine. But I mean, it's possible.
Yes.
Still could possibly be a guy.
Yeah.
It is definitely possible. But I just have this feeling. I don't know. And then I just got a weird thought in my head, which is you know, my wild things out of the side of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Our little we only saw her for about 2 seconds. The chick that Gordon was supposed to cheat on his wife with. Mm-hmm. If she isn't a puzzle piece herself.
I do not know.
I wouldn't think that she's I don't think she's the pig, but I
no. And this is the fun part because I don't really remember much about any other Saw movies other than the first one. Like, the first one I have seen multiple times. The other ones, not so much. Like, I watched them when they came out, I think up to the fourth movie, and I've long since forgotten them. Because I'm not a fan of gore for gore. Like,
no.
It kind of feels like it gets that way throughout the movies, for me anyways. So it is possible that for me and Kim, we can actually speculate about the movies we're going to watch in the next couple weeks, and we could still be like excited to speculate because we don't really know what's going on.
Right. So let me ask you, because I can't really direct at Nikki right now because she kind of knows a little bit, but going into the next film, what is the big question that you may have, Kim, like from the ending of this? Because we have Dr. Gordon crawling out of the room saying he's going to go for help. We have Jigsaw, you know, waking up out of the thing, revealing to Adam, says game over, and locks him in. You know, that's kind of like where the movie ends.
I want to know what happens with Adam. I want to know what happens with Gordon. I want to definitely see some of the rest of their story.
Mm. Yeah.
Does Adam just die? I'm like, does he just die after a moment of time? I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, we already know a couple people are actually dead. They're dead. They're dead.
Yeah.
There's no. So, I mean, more. Was there more previous to this? I guess. I mean, we saw a few, but was there?
Isn't that what Jigsaw is? It's kind of a prequel.
No, Jigsaw is.
No. Oh yeah, it's definitely okay. It's 10 years after the fact. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so we were talking earlier about the timeline. Was because the next one is a couple months after this one, right?
So the way that the Saw movies will work from here on out is, there's a couple months between this one and Saw 2. But from Saw 2 to Saw 3, it's a mere matter of seconds. From Saw 3 to 4, it's a mere matter of seconds. 4 to 5, mere matter of seconds. 6 to 7, mere matter of seconds. And, 6 to 7, mere matter of seconds. So they're like it's just from here on out, it's like it stops and you could just watch it as one movie technically.
Okay.
But now I have an interesting speculation for the one that's coming out, the newest one. You said it was 10 years?
Yes.
After 10 years after the last one, or 10 years after the first one?
I'd say probably about, because if it's going to be after the last one or after the first one, we're talking about a mere matter of months.
Yeah, it'd be like a month timeline.
So, okay, so yeah, you're right. So it still would be fairly, but we said 10 years.
Yeah.
Our killer has terminal cancer in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Frontal lobe.
You're not going to live 10
Frontal
years.
lobe that started out as colon cancer. That's what we...
Which means it's spread across the body.
Yes.
You're not living 10 years.
Right.
No.
You're lucky if you're going to live the one.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we obviously change killers at some point.
Someone takes up the reins.
Maybe.
Like Copycat takes the reins of some sort.
Maybe.
I'll be very surprised if it's the same killer throughout.
For some reason, I'm thinking a family member, but I don't know. Like, I just...
It would
like
have
I
to be
said,
someone that was close. Someone,
Yeah.
Possibly one of the random puzzle pieces we see along the way.
I don't know. I mean, if you're in a situation and you learn to appreciate your life, you probably do kind of get the same view on other people as Jigsaw, because you've learned what he's trying to teach you, and you probably want other people to appreciate their lives as well, because you now come to the realization that it's worth living.
Well, the one thing I will tell you is... From this movie, where we literally had no information about the Jigsaw Killer. We had spent barely any time with him. Granted, we technically spent the whole movie with him, but we spent almost no time, like, with him, you know?
Yeah.
That we make up for that in the second one.
Okay.
That makes me happy, because I would definitely want to know why he does what he's doing.
We start going into the killer's brain. And then you have the actor who played Jigsaw, right? We have Tobin Bell. Right, Tobin Bell is a huge actor.
Horror, definitely not known for horror movies.
Yeah.
That's why I said if I really would have paid attention to him laying in the bed, I would have immediately known that something was up.
Horror movies, TV series, he's been in it all. He
Suspense
started
stuff, yeah.
His very first role was he just played a random guy on the street in the movie Manhattan, and you know he's been in a lot of movies and stuff since then. So when they were looking for someone to get, they threw out, you know, Tobin Bell. He read the script and he absolutely loved it. Now, they didn't have the budget to get a stand-in or a mannequin or whatever. This very highly renowned actor laid on the ground for 16 days of shooting a movie. Like, to get up for one scene at the end, like, all he asked for was a mat to lay on. That's it. Like, they're like, do you want music, something to listen to, like, anything, you know, while he was... And he didn't. Like...
Well, he had the most epic scene at the end.
He did.
He pretty much made the movie. That whole scene made the entire movie.
Yeah.
So he's probably like, I'm awesome, doesn't matter.
Well, you know, he got to use his voice and stuff, too, because his voice was on the tapes, and... the puppet, you know, and all various things like that. And it's a very iconic voice now. Like, you hear Tobin Bell's voice at this stage now, and you can't help but think of Saw. That's what he's done. And just recently, Tobin Bell just played Savitar on the TV show The Flash. And the entire time, I'm sitting there watching The Flash, I'm just like, it's Saw. Oh my god, it's Saw. Like, that's all I could think of every time, and I loved it. I was completely and utterly just fascinated with his voice. I don't know what it is. Like, it's so iconic.
He also has a very recognizable, like, space.
Yeah.
His space is very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you mentioned, like, he gets up and it's like, I'm awesome, so whatever. And
yeah, dude, he's got...
And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, if we're if we say, jump forward to 2016, 2017, in this like, bracket of 4 to 5 years, the last 4 to 5 years, if that scene were done now, I would imagine him standing up and going YOLO and walking out.
God
No.
save us.
No.
no.
It's really bad, but I just it's replaying in my head, and I'm trying not to just burst out laughing because it's ridiculous.
All my fault. But I
Yep.
mean, that was their persona. Like, that's just that whole, like, ha ha ha, I've been here this whole freaking time. You guys are
Mhm.
idiots.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it was pure power, pure just,
Like,
I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it
No,
was just.
he had control of the situation until the very, very end. Like, he knew he did. Because he was there. He was actively there, and he was involved without them knowing he was involved.
He has control over everything. He analyzes everything. He
Mhm.
looks at everything from every aspect, And even
Yep.
Gordon said, that's why we can't break these pipes. That's why we can't cut through the chains. Like, we sit there and we're saying, like you guys were mentioning, why not just cut through the lock instead of the chain, whatever. For all we know, every time they tried to do that, he could have
He
sent
could've
the electric
shocked them.
shocks.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't mean they shouldn't have tried.
Right, no, I get that, but he analyzes everything. The clock, Gordon said, somebody obviously wanted us to notice that. It was a pristine clock in this filthy bathroom.
It's
Brand new
also possible that there might have been some mechanism in the lock that if they did it explodes or some shit. Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know.
Who knows? Yeah.
But I lost
But
train of thought.
literally every angle is covered, and that's what's great. And I criticize even though this is one of my favorite series of all time. There's another movie, we'll get to that when we do, and it's just like a noise sent the guy in a different direction than the one he was traveling in, and it's like that led him to go somewhere, and if he didn't do that, things wouldn't have played out, that way. And it's just like, is it luck at that point, or is it extreme calculating? And in this particular situation, it seemed like it would have been extreme luck, and we'll talk about that when we get to that movie. But
it does seem he's very thought out. He's very, very smart, smart, and that's why that's why you said when you said that we were going to start getting more dove into him in the next. I'm really excited. This is where I'm horribly creepy because I'm like,
and Tobin Bell really got into the character too, and like he got to the point like as they started going on with the movies that he was annoying the crew because he would come in filming like after they give him a script or whatever, and he'd come back and have 70-page script that they gave him with 500 pages of notes going, but I think the character would do this, that, and that. Like, he was keeping track, and he was, like, he's writing his own backstory stuff that, like, is not necessarily in it, and he's compiling this notebook of what his character would be doing in certain situations, and, like, all this stuff, and then when they go back and they write it, and he's got to make sure it lines up with the way his actions for the character, and he really got into this role. So, like I said, to the point where he was annoying the crew.
It genuine.
Yeah.
Like,
that is, yeah.
I mean, it does seem it would be off on set. It would seem really annoying. I could see that. I could be like, I would be fed up with it if I worked on set with the guy. But for the viewer, it does seem genuine.
Yeah.
And hearing that, it's creepy.
Yeah.
But it adds to the movie.
In those situations, like I know that we've had situations past where people get really into their characters. The problem is that you're diving into something really dark.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, that's where I get weird because I dive into this whole like when I said we talk about serial killers and I like serial killers, I dive into a lot of the what they're thinking in their mind stuff. I read a lot of like notes and weird crazy crap that you see them like letters and shit that they do, but because it's like, why are you like this? I mean, why do you do what you do? And so you're having to dive into a really dark character.
And you are going to eat up the rest of these because you're gonna find out way more than you expected, B, and you're gonna love it.
And that exact reason is why the TV series Dexter did so well, is because you were getting the story from
The inner
the killer's
monologue. Yeah.
the inner
Yeah.
monologue, the killer's side of the story. You were getting his perspective, and
I
that
really
really
liked
interests
Dexter.
a lot of people. Yeah. So like, I completely get it. I'm not looking for that. I'm not going out of my way to look for that kind of stuff, but it does interest me. Like, I do want to see that.
It's the mind. Like, I don't know. Like, I think I just get just into the diving into the mind is a thing. Like, I took
Psychology.
psychology in my to make us do it in vet classes and stuff. And that was funny. My teacher told me I needed a therapist, but I guess I just are really interested in that because it's a whole. They have a whole nother mindset.
Yeah. Yep. So this movie took place basically in one room, right? It was mainly in the bathroom, the whole thing. We did get flashbacks and different things that were, all... This whole movie was shot in one location, from start to finish. And I think the exception of them not shooting in that one building was the police scene, but that was another location that was nearby that was already built.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't do anything special for that set. So they had a lot to cover, like the really cheesy, cheap car scene. The car chase scene where it's zoomed in close up of a dark car. The car was filmed inside of the warehouse, stationary. Like the car was not moving at all. But the closeness that they had to film and the way that they edited and everything, it added to the claustrophobia of the film, of just being like trapped in one space, and it really helped build that. So for the next movie, we open things up a little bit, and we have two main locations. One of which is a house, and the other is his lair. So we spend a lot of time in those two places.
Okay.
So, but with the exception of Dr. Gordon and Adam, and a little more detail on Jigsaw, is there anything in particular that you guys are looking forward to in maybe the second one to find out?
Not really. I mean, I don't really remember much from the first one on. So it is kind of like me getting another fresh look at the rest of the series. I really don't know what to expect other than what you've told us. Mm-hmm. So I'm just here for the ride.
Okay, so then I guess let me close this out by asking, what was your guys' favorite trap? Your favorite test in this movie? We'll exclude the bathroom because that was
the bear trap.
Yes, the bear trap. That was the most intense feeling one, because he says she was on a time limit, but she wasn't until she stood up and got out of that mechanism, and then her time started. And it was only 3 minutes or something?
Yeah, it was quick.
And she had
60 seconds.
Was it?
Really that short?
Or 90 seconds, 60 or 90.
It felt a little bit longer than that, because they have her freaking out, going like this before, when she stands up. You have a limited amount of time. You're freaking out. The body's over there. Just run over there, go to the body, cut him open. But she's freaking out, trying to figure out a different way to get it off, even though she's been told the key is in him.
If you paid attention,
I think she was high.
Yeah, but if you paid attention to a lot of it was editing to kind of build on your anxiety, and to kind of represent her anxiety as well. But if you look from the moment she stand up and reached back and you saw the timer to the moment that she went to the body to cut it, only 10 seconds had passed.
It felt so much longer. It was dragged out.
Not only did it drag it out, but you saw the did you see the use of color and the use of in the camera stuff? Because it looks like you got like a couple like the Technicolor kind of going on.
Yeah, it was kind
like
of
she was high.
flashing,
That's why I
yeah.
thought like she was high. But
Yeah.
kind of like an acid trip a little bit going on there. So when she's like moving around, so you see like the like when you get the camera movement, you see like the where you,
She
how
was
does
a
it, the
heroin addict?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what she
Yeah.
said. So you're getting the like the moving, like you can see all the movements. You literally see like the hand, like you just watch your hand, you go whoop, and you see all the whoop. So
The fool.
you're watching all of this, and then you got the color going on. So it's a very intense little scene, even though it
Yeah.
doesn't last that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely like the moment she rips that bear trap off her head, she throws it to the ground and it just pops open. You're just like, holy
Yeah, you hit the
shit.
snap.
Oh god, it was just like I mean there was a video prior to her, you know, like get her when she was getting her description of what she had to do. It shows what the bear trap is capable of doing. And it was on a ceramic mannequin. So you got to see chunks fly and then like
Yeah.
the exploding sound. So it was
I think it was
very
a styrofoam mannequin. I think it was.
This is what was worse is that in my brain I'm picturing because it's literally the ripping of the jaw. So you're getting like you
Yeah.
can literally see the marks here. So you're just getting this, and
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah, no, it was ceramic because styrofoam wouldn't have shattered like that.
Okay.
it would have ripped. Just if it's styrofoam,
Yeah,
it
it would
would've
it just would have ripped, yeah.
It would have done exactly what her face would have done.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, it's and one of the very interesting things about that scene is that was that one scene with the bear trap. The prop that they made was a real working prop. It could actually do that.
wow.
And
I hope they dismantled it.
and
And
two,
they just tossed into a pile.
and two, that is the scene that they shopped around with. They filmed that out of pocket, not with Johnny Smith, but they filmed it with themselves, and did that scene. And that's what they showed people when they gave them the script. They were handing them DVDs, you know, with that on there, being like, "This is what we envisioned for this." And so they had a script to read, but then they also had a DVD to watch to kind of get the feel of it, you know. So if it wasn't for that, I don't think this film ever would have gotten off the ground.
So that makes sense that me and Kim picked out that particular scene as being like the most, you know, actually it felt like the most influential as far as, you know, getting into the theme of the genre.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's, like I said, I think there's two scenes that stand out. That one, and then obviously the ending, the big ending.
Yeah,
twist.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
are the
yeah.
two scenes that are super, super stand out.
Yep. And the last thing that I do want to mention before we wrap this up is the music. The main theme was written by Charlie Clauser from Nine Inch Nails.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, very well done. It's extremely iconic, and we get variations of this through the whole rest of the movie. It's the themes, or the whole rest of the franchise. It's the theme song. They even grabbed him, got him on board to do the new one coming out, and they said it's a little bit of a reimagination of it. So it's familiar and going to be different at the same time. So I'm very excited to hear it.
I mean, the whole, like, you know, getting a well-known musician to write your scores is really good because it brings you back to the first Resident Evil movie where they got Marilyn Manson to do the scores, and the freaking soundtrack for that freaking movie is amazing because of Marilyn Manson.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely compare that to this because Nine Inch Nails is amazing as well. So, like, just I think more movies have to do that because, you know, get some musical geniuses in there.
And I'm sure, as you guys have guessed, it's far from the last we've seen of the puppet, Billy.
Oh, yeah.
Billy, who's
of
never
course.
been named in the entire series, but he is known to fans everywhere as Billy the Puppet.
Okay.
So, it's definitely more of him. Far from over. And that was the original papier-mâché puppet that they made back in Australia. And I will never forget when I don't remember if it was James Bond or Lee Winnell. It was one of them when they were carrying it. They said when they were going through customs, never in their life did they want their bags checked by TSA more than that moment.
See, I would be the exact opposite. I would have been paranoid to the point where they would have checked my bags because I was being skeevy.
Yeah.
Because I would have been so nervous. But they're like, check our bags. Here, your check. Just check them, please. Please.
Well, you guys still got to think about, then, and even though I know obviously it was still bad. Once after 9/11, everything was crazy with airports. But it's gotten worse as time has gone on. So then it wasn't as bad as like if they did it now. It's like
that's true.
This was after 9/11 though.
Yes, it was, but it's worse now.
I'm saying it's gotten worse.
The amount of security has
just in the last couple of years, it's gotten like horrendous.
Yeah. That's the part of like I'm not scared of flying on an airplane or anything. I packing whatever, I don't get anxious with that. It's going through security. Even though that I haven't done anything wrong, I don't like being checked. Like, I don't like pat downs. I don't like the machine. I don't like... All of that makes me extremely nervous. So, like I said, I would have been the exact opposite of them. When it came to the doll being checked, I would have been completely nervous. Even though I know nothing's wrong with the doll. It's just a fucking doll made of paper mache.
Yeah.
I would have been freaking out.
Well, I'm always like, what is in my bag that'll be bad? What is in my bag that'll be bad? What is in my...
And then, I guess... I will ask one more question before we wrap it up. What is a test that you guys would like to see? Like something completely out there. Because me being a huge fan of the series, I can say one thing, and it's without spoiling. One thing that I really always wanted to see that has never been done, and who knows if it will be done in the future movies or anything like that, is something playing around, like something, it's gotta clearly be dangerous, but playing around people's phobias as well, with like spiders, snakes, bees, something along those lines. Like, I would love to see a trap or a test involving that, and we've never gone that route.
That's funny that my brain just went something like that.
I can see that, but like, if you were to get Jigsaw to do this, I don't think that would fit his morals, because in the end, if these people want to survive, they're going to have to harm these animals, and that's against his morals.
Maybe, but think of like, for example, if Jigsaw was to test Indiana Jones, like. He would instantly be like, snakes, we're doing it. Like, that's his trap.
The thing about, though, is that you could play it off if you're playing with a phobia. You don't actually have to have the animal. I mean, you easily could simulate something.
Yeah, if their phobia is severe enough that, even just the picture of a spider would set them off, then that works. But, like, I have evolved. Like, I still get freaked out by spiders. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to scream and run into the other end of the house anymore. I legit was that bad. I'm not like that anymore. I will actually get up, either capture it, trap it so that someone else can take care of it later, or I'll squish it. I'm apprehensive, of course, but I'm not that bad anymore.
Mine's if they're like big. My mom immediately thought, I was like, I don't want this shit to bite me, so I go to try to kill it. And then, of course, I actually had an incident. It was a few months ago. I had one. It was like about quarter size. This sucker was huge, and it was on my ceiling above my bed. And I was like, I ain't playing this game. So I had this PVC pipe from my green screen that I still haven't put it up. And I went to go stab it. Well, when I went to go stab it, it fell and it disappeared. I was up for the next 4 hours tearing my room apart.
I've done that. I
didn't want to go to bed without it being dead.
I know there's people out there that have like bee phobias, and it's like hide the key to something in a beehive. Those like the beehive traps that you like the beekeepers go. Like, there could have been something like that where they're going through beehives and like looking for keys, and it's just like all kinds of. They could do all kinds of stuff like that. Something I would love to see in the franchise that's never been explored. But is there anything Is
I
there
was gonna
anything
hit
like
with
that?
one of my own phobias. I'm not a big fan of dark water. I'm not a big fan of if I can't see the bottom kind of thing. So
That's different.
my first brain was playing with something like that. Obviously, that wouldn't, the animal stuff that goes away from that. That's something that would be vital. I mean, you could drown or whatever, and actually have something in the water. I mean, you could have something in the water swimming around with them.
We will explore water to a degree in one of the movies.
Okay.
So there's that. So Nikki, is there anything that you could think of that?
No.
No?
Like, I mean, my phobias are zombies, which is you can't really replicate that because I know that's fake. So, I mean, I'd be spooked, but if someone came at me going, I'd just I'd probably find the nearest thing or try to beat the fuck out of them because,
The nearest toilet seat.
yeah, whatever. And spiders, I'm skeevy around other bugs too, but that varies, whatever it is. But yeah, spiders. And I don't feel like he would delve into using animals as physically in stuff like that. So
I'm pretty much going to go out on a limb, and I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, the very first trap in the next movie is something that I think would skeeve you guys out really bad, and you would not be able to handle if you were in a situation. A lot of these, you're going to be like, I couldn't do that if I was in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this one is one of those ones that really, really plays at you. So we'll see when we get there. But
okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you guys think of the movie?
I'm gonna say a 7 for me.
Okay, and Kim?
I give it, just for the ending scene, a 10.
10? Ooh, big 10. I'm gonna rate this out of all of the Saw movies because I've seen them all and whatever. And this is my favorite one out of all of them. So Saw 4 is my second favorite. So we got a bit before we get there.
Okay.
And
this one definitely made me want to watch the other ones.
Immediately.
Dom taunted me for a while.
Yeah, we were on Skype. We're in the, and I'm like, B, look, it's Saw 2, and I just started it up, and the Lionsgate logo comes. She just hung up on me. It was so funny.
See, as soon as we finished, I was like, okay, I'm done. I got up and I walked away.
I don't know. After that one, I was like, I could have binged probably from you.
Yep. So we next week, same time, we will. I believe same time we will be in. We will be doing Saw 2, and we will continue one a week up until the release of Jigsaw. We will give an extra week for Jigsaw though, some time for you guys to see it if that's something you're interested in, and I'm looking more forward to talking about the next coming ones than I am about talking about the new one coming out, but I'm sure that's going to change as we get closer and closer. So
when we actually see it.
So, Kim, where can the people find you?
On Twitter is HUFFITY, PUFFITY.
Nikki, where can the people find you?
On Twitter as well at LadyVenom24, LadyVenom24.
And you can find me down below at Phenomenon, PHENOMEDOM. And you can find us all on Facebook, Gmail, G+, Twitter, MySpace, and right here on YouTube at /ASO TV Podcast for some more podcasts for some of your favorite TV shows, games, and movies. I'm not coughing for the same reason that Jigsaw was coughing. Until next time. See you guys later.
Bye-bye.